Here we are then, everybody lining up on the grid here, getting ready to go racing for the Belgian Grand Prix here at the Purple Sector Formula 1 League this season 14, this round 13 of this 24 round season. We're lining up on the grid. We're moments away here from the start at Spa-Francorchamps. Lights are on at the head of the grid. And it is lights out and we are underway. And looks as though Ernie got a better start there than Scott. Scott a little bit sloppy off the line, goes late on the brakes there, keeping it around the outside of Matty Pitt for the time being as he gets a better exit there out of La Source and holds on to third place. G.C. and White Shadow went briefly side by side there, going on the exit of La Source. We've got John here, who's moved ahead of Mango up into P9. G.C. now challenging C-Mac as they come up through Rouge and Radion, as we see G.C. very wide there out of the corner, and in fact C-Mac there's got out of shape, has lost out to White Shadow, who's dropped down to P8 there, C-Mac. So White Shadow up into P7, G.C. here still running in P6 at the moment, and we got the Williams there of Mango looking to the inside of John into a Lecombe, but a little bit too far away at the moment. But at the front it's the same situation here as it was through turn one. It's Badman, Ernie and Scott the top three ahead of Matty Pitt, and looking like a very clean start here, with a bit of a depleted grid here tonight, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame to see, but nonetheless, with 10 cars on the track, you're still going to have some pretty good racing, especially with the Purple Sector lads. Obviously, these guys very, very clean racers, and they all know each other very well as well, which is good, because if you know each other well, then you're going to most of the time have a good understanding between each other. But we see Scott there putting a lovely move there around the outside of Campus, and that is absolutely brilliant there, up into second place. So he went dancing around the outside there of Ernie, and Ernie had to have, well, I suppose Scott had to have a lot of faith in Ernie there, that Ernie wasn't going to send one up his inside or try and hold his line there on the inside. But great driving there from both of those guys. As we see, we've got Rexy Boy, G.C. close on his teammate. You got White Shadow Hole trying to keep C-Mac, John and Mango at bay. There's a three-way battle there for P7. Mango's dropped away a little bit off of that one over the course of the first lap, but out of the last corner here to complete the first lap of the race, and it's Badman who currently leads the race ahead of Scott, Ernie and Matty Pitt at the moment as they come into turn one on lap 2 of this race. In terms of tyres, they've all gone for the mediums apart from Mango, who's opted for the hard tyres and is going to go long into this first stint. We see them coming up through Al Rouge here on lap 2 of this 22 lap race. We can see there, that's the Aston there of White Shadow, cut the curb a little bit there coming into Al Rouge. That would have just put him a little bit offline, but still looking pretty comfortable here down towards Lecombe. He's got a good enough gap back to C-Mac at the moment, as there are the leaders here coming on the exit of the Lecombe chicane, as you've still got G.C. trying to hassle the back of his teammate. C-Mac's got ahead of White Shadow going through that chicane there up into P7 he goes. Now John will be looking to try and knock at White Shadow while he's down, I would imagine, over the course of this lap, as he's now challenging on the back of the Aston Martin here for what's 8th place on the road at the moment. The leaders here though coming down towards Campus, still Badman, Scott and Ernie, with Matty Pitt just about clinging to their coattails at the moment. Matty's got the two Ferraris though, very much bringing themselves into this fight here for 4th place, so Matty's going to have to be looking over his shoulder and be on his A game here if he wants to hold on to P4. Seems to be dropping away off of the podium runners a little bit here. These guys seemingly in a league of their own at the moment. In fact, Badman almost gapping Scott here by over a second. Scott's just about staying within that catchment here as they come through Blanchimont. Let's see what the gap is as they come in towards the chicane. I think there's DRS done on the start finish straight on F125. Let's just have a look here. Can't remember now. Obviously there's quite a few tracks on this game if you weren't aware, but it looks like Scott, well, he had DRS, but he got such a poor exit there out of the bus stop chicane that he's almost dropped out of 1 second here to Badman. Does he get a good enough exit? No, he's dropped out of that 1 second now. That could be crucial. Though saying that, Ernie's also fallen away from Scott a little bit, and Matty Pitt is now looking pretty hot in the mirrors here of Ernie. Does Ernie have DRS on Scott? That's going to be crucial here. He doesn't, so that's going to give Matty Pitt some impetus now to try and challenge him. He's a little bit too far away though, I think, going into the Combe chicane. And Ernie's going to hold on to that one for the time being, ahead of the Mercedes there, as you've seen them all coming through your shot down the Kemmel Straight, as it looks like they're spread out a little bit more than they were before. White Shadow still on the back of C-Mac at the moment in that fight for 7th place at the moment, but Badman still out the front here with just under a 2 second gap now over Scott, so he's continuing to eat that gap out a little bit. Ernie's closed up onto the back of Scott a little bit. Matty Pitt's still waiting in the wings with the two Ferraris as well, and these guys are going to all be ready to pounce if any of these guys in the podium positions makes a mistake, you can bet that they will be Johnny on the spot. So here are the leaders once again here, coming towards the end of lap 3 here at the Belgian Grand Prix here at Spa. Ernie's currently very close to the back of Scott now. Scott's going to be feeling the pressure here. He's now nowhere near the DRS here of Badman, so he's going to be very vulnerable here to the Sauber. But he's got the Mercedes and Matty Pitt and the 2 Ferraris of Rexy Boy and Gio Sidot coming as well, so it's not just about this Sauber here for Scott. He's got a lot of cars behind him, who I'm sure will be absolutely dying to get on the podium here tonight. With a bit of a depleted field and obviously some key names dropping out of this race and potentially the season, it's could be some big opportunities here tonight for well, a second and a third place for sure. I don't think the win's going to be on the cards unless Badman stacks it, but nonetheless Ernie's got a great run here up through Rally. On we go, and it's going to be an easy move here for Ernie down the Kemmel straight with the DRS and the slipstream, and gets himself up into P2 here ahead of the McLaren of Scott. In the background it's still the same situation here between these guys who are all in a bit of a DRS train, but in fact Scott Rexy Boy has dropped out of range here to Scott and Matty Pitt now. So I don't know if the 2 Ferraris have had a bit of a tussle there going through the first few corners, but they seem to be a little bit further back than what they were a few moments ago. So potentially I think those guys have run into maybe a couple of mishaps, but nonetheless, I mean, it's still looking pretty good at this moment in time. Ernie and Scott still tied at the hip with Matty Pitt, Rexy Boy in the background there, with G.C. falling off at the back of his teammate ever so slightly. C-Mac and White Shadow still pretty close here, just under a second between those two. John and Mango looking like there could be a battle on the horizon pretty shortly between those two. But an interesting first few laps here. Nothing too major going on just at this point. But looking like they're all settling in nicely here to a bit of a rhythm. Badman here into the bus stop once again. Ernie and Scott just half a second apart as they come into the bus stop, as we see Ernie just missing the apex a little bit there through the first part of the bus stop. That will give Scott an opportunity here to put on a bit more pressure. The DRS zone down the start finish straight is so short, it's really hard to get a good exit out of the bus stop when you're the car that's following, obviously with the dirty air and amongst other things making it very difficult to get too close. But Scott nonetheless still right there, and I tell you what, he's going to be in a prime position now to return the favour and do what Ernie did to on the previous lap. In fact, look at this, he's almost a dead cert to get this second place here down the Kemmel straight. As long as he can time when he pulls out of the slipstream here quite well, he should be able to get past quite easily here. As Scott now down towards the Lacombe chicane, he's up into second place, and that is a routine move there from the McLaren driver ahead of the Sauber there of Ernie, as we see G.C. once again piling the pressure on his teammate Rexy Boy, still just a little bit too far back to make a move. Rexy Boy's been holding firm now for a few laps and showing no signs of letting up at the moment, but I wonder if G.C. is going to be saying to Rexy Boy in their Discord chat, you know, come on mate, I've got a bit more pace than you at this point. I think maybe if you want to maximise our team points tonight, potentially start thinking about making way. But at this point, it doesn't look like Rexy Boy is in any mood to do that. But for sure, I mean, the podium's got to be on for the Ferrari boys tonight, so maybe that's got to be a conversation worth having in the next sort of couple of laps. You would think you'd need to make that decision quite quickly. But the battle for the podium is still raging on here. Scott, Ernie, Matty Pitt there as they come out of that corner, which I've forgotten the name of. Stavolo, that's it. And in towards this final part of the lap once again here. So Matty Pitt now looming large in the mirrors here of Ernie. Ernie's been battling with Scott for the last few laps, and Ernie, big mistake there going through the bus stop. Well, not a massive mistake, but certainly a moderate one. He's lost a fair few tenths there to Scott, and it's probably put him out of contention of being able to make the move down the Kemmel straight. It could allow him to be vulnerable here to Matty as it goes very deep there, does Ernie, into La Source, and Matty didn't need a second invitation there. Moves up into third place. Thing for Matty though, I think he's surrendered his DRS here. I don't know, is it one detection point? I can't remember if it's one detection point or if it's two. I would have thought it'd be two separate ones because of the layout. It is two separate DRS zones, but Ernie, because he got such a awful run there going out of La Source, just wasn't really close enough to do anything about it. As G.C. has finally made that move there ahead of his teammate Rexy Boy up into 5th place, and Ferrari can now breathe a sigh of relief. They've got a driver here who could potentially chase after the likes of Scott, Matty and Ernie over these next few laps. G.C. currently about 5 seconds off of Scott, only about 3 seconds off of Matty Pitt, so certainly there's going to be a lot to play for. In fact, a bit less than that actually. About 4 seconds off of Scott, about 2.5 off of Matty Pitt, so still for sure a race to be run here for the Ferraris. But Matty Pitt getting ahead of Ernie has just allowed Scott to get away here a little bit here, because these two battling has just given Scott a bit of a reprieve. Matty there still ahead of Ernie at this point, having made that move down the Kemmel Straight a few moments ago. G.C. doing likewise with his teammate Rexy Boy, who's just behind him on the road at the moment. C-Mac there running in P7, about a second ahead of White Shadow at this moment in time. You got John there running in 9th place ahead of Mango, who currently is in the final points paying position at the moment. In the meantime, Badman here coming out of the final corner, 3 seconds clear of Scott. Matty Pitt still keeping Scott on his toes here in this fight for 2nd place, as Scott got a much better exit there out of the final corner. Ernie here looking to try and pile this pressure here on the back of Matty for the time being. Rexy Boy didn't get a great exit there out of the last source. That's given G.C. a bit of a breathing room here as they come down towards El Rouge and Radion. Is the gap going to be over a second? No, it's going to be quite close here. Actually, I think G.C. is just about out of DRS range here. Yep. So Rexy Boy, despite using all of his ERS to try and keep within that 1 second window, seemingly has just dropped out of that range here. Ernie trying to put the pressure on Matty Pitt into the Combe chicane, but he's a bit too far away. Has to settle for P4 for the time being. White Shadow here is trying to stick to the back of C-Mac in this fight for 7th place. Rango now very close on the back of John. We'll have to watch that one on the next lap, because those hard tyres at this point in the stint are probably going to be starting to feel a little bit better than the mediums. Or we're certainly reaching that crossover point where the hard tyres become favourable over the medium, if we're not already there yet. Battle for the podiums continue to rage on at the moment. Matty and Ernie have just managed to close the gap a little bit to Scott over the last couple of laps, since obviously they've not been battling as much. Matty's been into 3rd place and Ernie hasn't been able to challenge him too much, which has given Matty a chance to focus a bit more on what's ahead of him rather than what's behind him. And these two currently still tied at the hip nonetheless, half a second between them, but the gap now under a second and a half between Scott and Matty Pitt, as these guys look to try and close in on this battle here for 2nd place. Scott just under 4 seconds behind the race leader Badman here at the end of lap 7, so Badman, he's clearly got a bit of pace over these guys, but he's not absolutely running off into the distance. It's not like he's completely trouncing them at this point, and there's still hope. If he made a mistake, we might have a bit of a race on our hands, but Rexy Boy is off and away, and Badman's still out the front here with a 3.5 second gap right now over Scott here on lap 8 of the race. We got Ernie looking pretty close here on Matty, and he's going to return the favour. The move that was done a couple of laps ago is now refunded here in the favour of Ernie, who's up the inside there, up into Lacombe, and he's up into 3rd place. There's Matty here getting a little bit close on the braking here through the 2nd part of the chicane, but Ernie's got that one done. And this is now just giving Scott once again just a little bit of a respite here, as we see Mango there moving ahead of John up into 8th place now as well. Rexy Boy has come into the pits for some fresh hard tyres and has come out in 10th place. Oh, pardon me. Oh, pardon me again. One more for luck. Nope, okay, never mind. Anyway. So we got... well, actually, Ernie's really close on Scott over the course of this lap and has actually pulled out over a second of a gap to Matty since overtaking him down the Kemmel Straight. So Ernie's looking pretty hot over the course of this lap. He's now within a second here of the McLaren. Gap now about just over 4 seconds between Badman and Scott. It's not gone up colossally over the course of this lap. It's gone up by about half a second, I would say. So, as I said before, you know, if Badman were to make a small mistake or have a spin or something, you know, anything. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm just, you know, I'm a fan of racing. That's what I like. That's what I commentate on. And if that were to happen, I think we'd have a race on our hands. But we got Ernie, Matty, Scott, G.C. all in the pits here at the end of lap 8. Only a third of the way into this race at the moment, as my Nan's just walked in the room. Are you all right, Nana? Who do you want to win the race? Sit there. Don't get in the way of the TV. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Don't get in the way of the TV. Sit down. There we go. All right. So we've got currently. So we got Ernie. So Scott, Ernie, Matty Pitt, and G.C. have all been in the pits here at the end of lap 8. We've also got John in the pits as well, putting a fresh set of hard tyres on. Obviously, we already saw Rexy Boy putting on a set of hards on the previous lap. But at the moment, we've still got Bad Man out the front. Obviously, still yet to pit. Now, I wonder if Bad Man knows. He probably will be able to see on his telemetry that these guys have come into the pits. So he'll be aware that Scott's going to have some pretty quick lap times at this moment in time. Now, Bad Man, we know he's the driver who doesn't usually get too phased by other drivers getting the undercut. He tends to just do his own race. He's quite happy to have a tyre delta towards the end of the race. So I wonder if he's going to be going long here like he often does. There's always going to be that risk of getting undercut if you go long, which we could see Scott being able to execute here, as we got Ernie there moving ahead of White Shadow. And White Shadow, I think, has made a mistake here. He's dropped behind Matty as well. Either that, or he's got a bit of a problem, as he's a bit wide there, and that's going to allow G.C. up the inside into Stavilo, and he's wide there, is White Shadow Hull. I think there might be damage on the car, maybe. Mango and Rexy Boy make their way through. Let's have a little look at this Aston. Doesn't look to be any majorly wrong with it, apart from the fact that it's got gravel all over it. And as we all know, gravel doesn't tend to slow the car down too much, so there must be some sort of other issue, which we're not quite aware of. But at the moment, we've got Rexy Boy and Mango here side by side into the bus stop. Rexy Boy has obviously been into the pits already, and is now making his way through up into 7th, as we've got C-Mac also in the pits now at the end of lap 9. And putting a new front wing on as well, so clearly he had a bit of damage over the course of that first stint.
This is a nice television, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that the one that I got for you?
So Bad Man is still out the front here with a 21-second lead over Scott.
Where did I get it from? Sainsbury's.
PC World. PC World. But we've still got... Well, we've actually got Scott in 2nd place. He's only 21 seconds behind Bad Man at the moment. And we've got Ernie, who's about a second and a half behind Scott. We've got Mango here, who's dropping off the back of Rexy Boy. Obviously, Rexy Boy on fresher tyres is now making his way into some clean air by the looks of it. Next up for him will be his teammate G.C. But obviously G.C.'s on a lap fresher tyres, so I don't think Rexy Boy's likely to catch him at this moment in time. So really the next sort of pivotal point in this race is, when does Bad Man come into the pits? Has he got enough? Has he got a free pit stop here over Scott? He's coming into the pits now, so Bad Man is going to get these medium tyres off. He's going to put the hards on, and they'll easily go to the end. He will have a bit of a tyre delta on the likes of Scott and Ernie, and he may have track position as well here. But Scott could have got the undercut here over these 2 laps that he's had out on the track. The gap was 4 seconds before they came into the pits. Now let's see what the gap is now. Scott coming down the main straight. You get to sort of cut the corner, the first corner, quite significantly being in the pits, but you also have to take it at a much slower speed. Scott here now coming out of last source. Bad Man's going to come out into clean air, and he's comfortably ahead here. He's only lost, he lost about 3 seconds over the pit window, so a second and a half a lap on those fresher tyres was what Scott was able to extract. It wasn't enough, although Scott's going to have DRS now down the Kemmel Straight, so he might have a chance to put Bad Man under a little bit of pressure. Bad Man, though, is on 2 lap fresher tyres, so it's unlikely that Scott's going to be able to challenge him on the next lap. I would have thought Bad Man, as soon as he's got his tyres up to temperature, will start to say bye-bye to Scott, but who knows? Who knows what Scott's got up his sleeve here? We know he's a gutsy racer. He's a bit of a rainmaster in these dry conditions. He's no slouch either, but for sure the wet weather is where this man here excels more than anywhere else. But at this moment in time, he's 8 tenths behind the leader, still sticking to the back of him over the course of this first sector here. But there's still well, a lot of this lap and a lot of more laps after this one to go, so it's going to be very difficult for Scott to keep up with Badman. Not just because of the pace that Badman's got, but also the 2-lap pressure tyres as well, which is going to really benefit the Haas driver and championship leader over the course of the second half of this race. But Badman now seems to have... Actually, the gap's just under a second still, so Scott has not let him off the hook here. I'll tell you what, Badman is still got a bit of pressure here from the McLaren driver, and Scott also gets a very nice exit there out of the last corner. So down the start finish straight he comes into La Source. Now if he can stay close to La Source... Oh, he's got a bit deep there as Scott. He's got a bit deep. Saying that, he gets a decent enough exit. We've also got a caution through the middle sector. I'm not quite sure why. We see Scott has moved ahead of... John has moved ahead of White Shadow up into P9. But back to the leaders here. Scott's still within a second here of Badman at the moment as they come down the Kemmel Straight. And Scott still just a little bit too far away. He's kept himself within striking distance, but I fear that maybe now the tyres being up to temperature for Badman might spell the end here for Scott. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to see a fight for this win, but I personally can't see it at this point. But we'll have to see what this next lap brings us. Never ever write off Scott Leslie, that's for sure, as he is still right there with the race leader. Was only 2/10 off in qualifying. Obviously lose about a tenth a lap on the hard tyres, so on paper you'd think he'd be about 4/10 off on raw pace on the race leader, but then again race pace can be a lot different from qualifying pace, and also having a bit between your teeth, having that extra bit of determination might be what he needs here at this point. But he wants to be careful he doesn't burn out his tyres, having to do an extra 2 laps of this race compared to his rival for this race win. But he's stuck to the task really nicely over the course of lap 12, and I tell you what, Scott is still right with the race leader here as they come through Blanchimont. He's going to have a massive chance of taking the lead down the Kemmel Straight, because he is within 0.3 of a second as they come into the bus stop chicane. Scott's going to get another bite of DRS here. Now if he's clever about this, he'll wait until he's out of La Source before trying to make a move here, because if you try and make a move into La Source, you'll be giving away the DRS down the Kemmel Straight, and that's not a move you want to be doing if you want to be leading come Lacombe. So Scott playing it smart there, waiting for his opportunity to pounce. Has a bit of slipstream here, which will get him a little bit closer through Al Rouge and Radion. Now can he keep it pinned here? He does. He's pretty close here. He might not be quite close enough to make a move under DRS, but I tell you what, he's going to be able to put Badman under tremendous pressure over the course of this lap. Seemingly the tyre delta not making too much of a difference here at this point, and Scott is keeping Badman on his toes. In the background there, Ernie running in third place, Matty Pitt a couple of seconds behind him in fourth. You've got G.C. and Rexy Boy battling here as Rexy Boy making a move on a lap older tyres than his teammate, and he's up into P5 there. Lovely move there from Rexy Boy as the two Scuderia cars fight it out here over 5th and 6th places. There's C-Mac running in 8th place at the moment. You've got John there in 9th, ahead of White Shadow. There's Badman, who's still got Scott behind him in this battle for the lead of the race. And G.C.'s got a 3-second time penalty here for track limits, which is going to be a real pain for him, because obviously in that battle with his teammate, and he's pretty close to him on the track, so that will currently make a difference by the time he gets to the checkered flag. In the meantime, the battle for the lead continues to rage on here between Badman and Scott. Scott's still in the slipstream, still keeping Badman on his toes down towards the bus stop once again. Can he continue to get a good run here through this part of the track? Very late on the brakes there is Scott, but keeping the speed through the corner nonetheless. Michael Schumacher-esque there from the McLaren driver. Here we come then down the start finish straight once again, keeping himself in good stead here into La Source. Now can he get a great exit here and really pile the pressure on the back of Badman up the hill towards El Rouge and Radion? Staying pretty close there, got a very good exit there out of La Source as well, as Badman there kicking up a bit of debris on the inside of the curb through El Rouge. Oh, and G.C. out of the race. Did he hit the wall there? Oh no, I don't think he did. I think he hit the wall going into the pits maybe, or maybe through La Source. He must have hit the inside wall through La Source. So that's an unusual place to crash out of the race there for G.C. His teammate was obviously right there with him before. Rexy Boy has lost a bit of time here, I think. So has there been an incident there between the two Ferraris? You'd hope not, but let's have a look at Rexy Boy's car. Seems like it's in pretty good nick, so I don't think they have come together. I think that was a mistake from G.C. by himself there. But the battle at the front still rages on. 0.7 of a second between Badman and Scott. Ernie 3 seconds behind. Matty Pitt seemingly not able to match the pace of the leaders in this final stint. But lap 14 of 22 here for the Belgian Grand Prix here at the Purple Sector Formula 1 League, and Scott still very much on the cusp here of the leader. Badman as they come through the final few corners here. And Scott, once again, seemingly good through the high-speed sections, the flat-out parts of the circuit. Has got a bit of a lower downforce setup than what Badman has got, which is helping him out through these faster sections. And he's seemingly got it under good control through the technical parts of the circuit. So he's in a very good position at the moment. Now, what sort of exit does he get out of our source? Again, running a bit deep into the corner, but getting a good exit. Saying that he lost a little bit of time there onto the throttle, coming out of La Source. Here we come then, through old Rouge and Radion again. And Badman didn't get a great run there through Radion, has to be said. But Scott's still just a little bit too far away at the moment. And the battle for the lead continues to stay as it is. Ernie's still there in P3. These guys are pulling away from Ernie whilst they battle as well, which is just testament to the pace that the front two have got over everybody else tonight. Matty Pitt still running in 4th place at the moment. Rexy Boy currently 12 seconds behind Matty. They're in 5th place. We've got C-Mac further, almost 10 seconds behind Rexy Boy. There's Mango, John and White Shadow completing the classification here. But this race, which has given us a fantastic duel out the front between Badman and Scott, a duel which I wasn't expecting after the first stint. I've got to say, with the pace that Badman had on the medium tyres, he was about half a second a lap up on Scott in the first stint. Now obviously Scott did have a bit of pressure from behind, which stopped him from really being able to focus on making any gains on the leader. But for all that's been said about that, over the course of when Badman had his undercut, the 2-lap undercut, when Scott had his 2-lap undercut, he really did pump in the laps, and he managed to get within DRS of Badman when Badman came out of the pits after his pit stop. And obviously that 4 seconds or 3.5 seconds that he gained during the pit window has served him up really well here, because despite having 2-lap older tyres, hasn't really held him back at all. By saying that, he may have just dropped out of DRS here. It's going to be very, very close. I think that was at the DRS detection line just back there. I think it may well have been. So I think Scott may have just lost his chance to challenge on this lap, and that could be a decider here in this race. So Badman's now just over a second ahead of Scott at the moment as they come into Lacombe once again. No other battles really going out on the track at the moment. It seems like this is it really. This is the only pair out on track who seem to be anywhere near each other at this point, and it so happens to be the battle for the lead. Although I'll tell you what, it's getting a bit further away over these last few corners. Badman's now got the gap of almost 1.5 seconds here over Scott. They've got 6.5 laps left to go here for the Belgian Grand Prix. Scott has just managed to reel back in a little bit of the time that Badman has been able to pull out over the course of this lap. 1.3 up to 1.4 as they exit Stavelot. It's just ebbing and flowing at the moment, the gap between these two. But looks like Badman over the course of this lap has just had a slight edge here over Scott. This is the part of the track where Scott really does seem to excel. They got 1.4 here as they come down towards the bus stop. Now what has Scott got in his locker here to try and play here? Doesn't look like he's got too much at this moment. Scott's got a little bit more ERS, but to be honest they're both very close in terms of the amount of battery, in terms of the amount of energy that they've got to use. And it is still Badman out the front with just under a 2-second gap here over Scott at the moment. There's Ernie running in 3rd place. ahead of Matty Pitt. Scott here is just under 2 seconds behind Badman at the moment. There's Ernie running in third place. It's interesting actually, the top 5, none of them have picked up penalties over the course of this race, but the guys from 6th down to 9th have all picked up penalties, so interesting stat, that one. But it does look like Badman's just kicked on over the course of this latest lap. About 4 or 5 tenths maybe quicker than Scott over the course of the last lap or so. What's Scott got to try and come back at him here? They're both pretty even in terms of ERS output. Does suggest they've got it on automatic, both of them, doesn't it? But anyway, the leaders here coming through Stavelot here on lap 17 of this 22 lap race here at Spa. It's not very long in terms of laps, and in terms of time it's also one of the shorter ones because it's quite a fast circuit. But it's by far the longest lap here on the Formula 1 calendar is Spa. It's just over 7 kilometers actually, this track. In terms of miles, that's well over 4 miles. But at the moment it's Badman here leading by just over a second here ahead of Scott. So Scott's managed to get some decent work done over the course of the last lap or so. Now it's down to 1.2. He'll still be out of DRS, but this could just give him a chance to maybe worry Badman a little bit over these last 5 laps of the race. But we are now well and truly into the closing stages here of this Belgian Grand Prix here at Purple Sector. There is Badman and there is Scott. As they come down towards Brussels once again, as there they are. It does look like Badman has just managed to keep the gap a little bit more stable through this first sector. He's managed to extend it, I think, by a couple of tenths over the last lap or so. Scott, though, is still right there with him. This is going to be a dramatic finish here to this to the round 13 of this 24-round season for season 14 here at Purple Sector. Badman has still got the advantage at the moment, but for how much longer is he going to be able to hold on to this one? The championship leader has had a phenomenal season so far. Has won at least half the races, maybe even 75% of them, going the way of the Haas driver. His main championship rival Klen has either dropped out of the championship or has just had the worst luck in terms of attendance over the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure which one it is. I think he still races him. To be fair, I haven't commentated this week because I've had problems, technical issues. I haven't been able to commentate on any of the races I usually do. Misfits, Red Arrows, TTRL, as well as I was meant to commentate on a new league as well, Ernie's League. I was meant to commentate on that on Monday morning as well, but unfortunately fate intervened on that one. But nonetheless, Scott just under 2 seconds just behind Badman at the moment as they come up through El Rouge and Radion once again. But it does look like Badman's just pulled away a little bit to Scott here. Seems to be a bit more under control now than what he was a lap or so ago. But just when you think that Badman's starting to get into a rhythm and pull away, Scott will then just reel him back in a little bit more. 1.7 as they come into Brussels. Oh, Scott there had a bit of a twitch. Going out that corner, through No Name they go. And yeah, the gap's definitely gone up a bit on this lap by about half a second or so. It's now up to 1.8 as they come through Pouin and into Campus once again. But 3.5 laps left here in this what's been an exciting race here between these two, it has to be said. They've kept us on the edge of our seats, and up until about now it's been sort of up in the air, but it's starting to look a bit more of a formality, and it's a familiar face at the top of the leaderboard here. But is he going to be able to hang on, because track specialist and Purple Sector veteran Scott Leslie here is still keeping him in his crosshair, and this is certainly not over yet. This is far from over here between these two drivers as they come out of the last corner here, over the line to start lap 23 to go here at Spa, and it's still Badman who's hanging on to this race lead. Scott's still trying to give him something to worry about. Ernie in the background there's just 4 seconds behind these guys, but hasn't really figured in any way, shape or form over the course of this one. It just doesn't look like he's quite got the pace here of these two. He might have the pace, but he hasn't got the consistency. And I think that's ultimately, well, it's what you need over the course of 22 laps, isn't it, really? If you haven't got consistency over 22 laps, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. But Badman here's got a 1.9, just under a 2-second gap here as they come out of Lacombe here, once again down towards Brussels. Let's keep an eye on the gap going through Pouen, because it was at 1.8 on the previous lap. Let's see what it is this time around. It seems to have gone up a bit. Oh yeah, Badman's had a stormer of a lap on that last lap. He's gained about 7 or 8 tenths, so he's really clicked into gear, and maybe Scott's tyres now starting to feel it a little bit. Obviously Scott will have been pushing on his tyres to try and keep up with Badman over the course of those laps after the pit window, whereas Badman's now probably decided to just take the life out of them. There you see he's quicker than his personal best there by 4 tenths through sector 2. Obviously that is up to that point on the lap, so he's basically decided to drop the hammer here. Fuel loads will be at their lowest throughout the entire race, obviously, so that will help out a lot with the pace that he's able to extract from the car, but obviously as well seems to have just stepped it up a gear here. He's just done the fastest lap of the race there as Badman, 46.1, half a second up on his personal best. I think he was the fastest lap holder before that, but I'm not absolutely certain about that. But Badman's gap to Scott currently 3.5 seconds at the moment. So there they are, they're going into Lacombe once again. Badman, Scott, Ernie there running in 3rd place. Currently 7.5 seconds behind the leader. Badman, he's done a good job over the course of this one to keep himself in the podium places, and it'll be, I think, Ernie's 3rd podium in the space of a week as well, in the space of 3 races. He obviously won this time a week ago on Tuesday night at the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix in those changeable conditions. Silverstone, he was on the podium once again on Thursday, and he's seemingly on a good run of form here at the moment, is Ernie. He's not far away from Badman, he's not far away from Scott. Scott seems to have really stepped it up over the course of this Spa weekend. Whether or not he can maintain that level of pace over the rest of this season, we'll have to see. But certainly tonight he's given it his all, and he can come away from Spa with his head held high, as that was a hiccup. But nonetheless, still got Badman leading the race as they once again come down towards the bus stop chicane. Now they've got a bit of traffic up ahead of them. I think it might be White Shadow. It is. So White Shadow, the lapped car, currently running in 9th place, is about to be lapped by the leaders. So there's John into the pits. He's also being lapped. But Badman here is about to put a lap here on the Aston Martin. Or is he going to reach him in time? Because he's only got 1 lap left to go. So he might. Yeah, he is. As White Shadow there pulls over. And there's Badman putting a lap there on him. And Scott also following him through. The gap currently just under 4 seconds between Badman and Scott. So Badman has truly dropped the hammer in these last few laps. Scott's maintaining the gap here to Ernie at the moment of just about 4 seconds. So Scott looking pretty safe there in 2nd place. Matty Pitt there has dropped off the leaders a bit in this final stint. He's about 15-16 seconds off of the lead as we're on the final lap down the Kemmel Straight for the final time. Rexy Boy there running in P5. He had a battle with his teammate early on. His teammate crashed out a few laps ago. But Rexy Boy will be bringing home the points for Ferrari tonight. C-Mac there, 6th place. Fair way ahead of Mango in 7th. And then you've got White Shadow and John, who are a lap down on the leaders, riding in 8th and 9th places here on the final lap of the race. But here comes Badman through campus for the final time here at Spa tonight for this round 13 of this 24-round season. For season 14 here at Purple Sector, and it's been an absolutely brilliant drive, a well controlled, well managed drive from Badman He almost got undercut by Scott during the pit window, came out, went into the pits just in time, came out with 2 lap pressure tyres, saved his tyres in the first part of the stint. Had a bit of pressure from Scott, did well to weather that storm. He could have easily been overtaken, and that could have changed the course of this race dramatically, but he held his ground, held his own, and it's Badman here coming into the bus stop for the final time and out onto the start finish straight. He's going to take the checkered flag here for the Belgian Grand Prix. It's going to be yet another win here for Badman this season in season 14 here at Purple Sector. Scott comes over to take second place with Ernie over the line to complete the podium, and then a little way behind them it's going to be Matty Pitt, who's coming out of the final corner there. You see him coming into your shot in 4th place, and then a long way behind them is Rexy Boy, who'll be coming around in P5 in a few moments time. But fantastic job there from Badman tonight. Didn't put a foot wrong under pressure there from Scott, has to be said. Scott really gave it everything, but Badman just did exactly what he had to do. As we see Rexy Boy over in 5th place ahead of C-Mac, who's just coming through the bus stop now in 6th place. And obviously we've got Mango coming into the bus stop now. There's C-Mac over in 6th. Mango will be the last driver to cross the line on the lead lap in 7th. We already have White Shadow and John over the line in 8th and 9th, so Mango will be completing the classification there. But Badman once again, the man of the moment here tonight at Spa with a fantastic win. But it certainly wasn't a runaway victory here tonight. There was a bit of pressure from Scott, but Badman dealt with it very well indeed. So the championship leader extends his gap in the standings here at Purple Sector. I think it's a woman.
Huh?
I think a woman. But Badman there extending the gap. Hey, you alright? But Badman extending his gap in the championship here tonight. Thanks to Purple Sector again for having me as always, and we'll see you for the next one, guys, on Thursday night. And yeah, thank you. That was good timing, Nana. Carers are here. For those of you who are unaware, my nan was actually really good tonight. She sat through the entire second half of that race and didn't say a word, so I've got to say she was very well behaved tonight. But that's it from me, and we'll see you all soon.